Welcome everyone, Simon here from the Whales of Wall Street. I have an XRP video here for you guys today. There have been some really interesting updates from Ripple in the least the last 48 hours. We'll go through a couple of those elements as to why that's important. And we'll go through a bit of the chart analysis as well towards the end, as always. Before we do that, don't forget to check out our other videos on the channel. Loads of different topics and discussions as always. More recently, the Veracity video, XTC, and a few others as well. So go check that out. And make sure you smash that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Thank you to those who have done so, and welcome to those who are new. Let's go straight into this one, guys, because there's a lot to cover here. So first of all, this is mental. Ripple has bought the custody firm Metaco for $250 million. This is absolutely huge. So just put this in perspective of exactly Metaco's kind of like partnerships and integrations are relating to some of the biggest banking institutions around the world, guys. I think some of you will know at least a few of these that are listed just here. The whole solution goes towards a multitude of various other different partners and integrations as well. And this is absolutely incredible because this is one of the first, if not, I think maybe the only purchase that Ripple have done outside of themselves, where they've acquired a company. So as I said, $250 million is not a small amount of money, obviously, but this is absolutely huge. So here we go. Brad Garlinghouse, CEO of Ripple, of course. By focusing on the infrastructure, you're not really subject to the same gyrations of the crypto winters. If ultimately you're solving a clear problem at scale for these customers, there's going to be demand. This is heavily relating to his conversation around the increased demand from institutional investors for crypto custody services. So there's kind of like scalability, but the actual infrastructure of scalability, and accommodating like the magnitude, guys, of not just wholesale application, but also retail. And what we're defining here, guys, is mainly the CBDC element, in my opinion. And we'll go on to why in a second around this. Of course, central bank digital currencies are a huge topic. They have been for some time, and we know that Ripple's been a big part of that, but perhaps have maybe been some of the ones that are most silent when it comes to actually conversations around development, around infrastructure behind that as well. Whereas, you know, the events I've been going to with like Digital Pound Foundation recently, and we see a lot of the projects out there talking about CBDCs left, right, and center. And yes, Ripple have done that, but they've always kind of been not necessarily secretive, but there's never kind of like looked like there's been a full-on strategy. There's always been like talk and ideas and thoughts and this, that, and the other. But now, and literally specifically this week, there have been some significant movements here in terms of obtaining companies that are very much around regulation and custody of assets and digital assets in general. By the way, guys, this isn't just about finance. This is but tokenization. This is everything that could be digitalized, even from a physical format to digital format. You were talking about trillions upon trillions of dollars in terms of a market aspect here. And we talk about it quite a lot on the channel, to be honest, about tokenization, digital assets as a whole entire topic. But to take over these kind of guys is absolutely massive and a huge statement to the rest of the projects and technologies out there that Ripple actually, we talk about like price point and stuff and this, that, and the other, but we know Ripple have been around for a long time now, probably about 10 years or so. Definitively in the crypto sphere, the blockchain sphere, and slowly but surely been going about their business. And this is what I always said about the SEC nonsense. It's just theatre, guys. It's a circus, a distraction, whilst they continue to develop around the world and continue to do things like this. Like, this is proving my point that I've made so many times. I have no interest in the case. If it's deemed as secure or not, it's about clarity. It will still be there regardless to which way it goes. Okay, it's just about legislation and regulation behind the scenes for the US government, who obviously running out of money, wasting people's time. I still honestly, hand on heart, believe that XRP, Ripple are working with the SEC and the US government to ensure that the US dollar does not lose its reserve status around the world, of which we are seeing the opposite happening at the moment, with the likes of China, etc., doing trade deals with the Arab nations, United Arab Nations, and obviously like Russia, etc., doing similar things without the use of the dollar. This is what I believe is happening. It's a distraction, a smokescreen. Not necessarily for us, but maybe from a political level, to say that, oh, actually this is not going on, and then hey presto, all of a sudden the Americans will turn up as the number one outfit again to say, oh, we got this structure, we got this system, everyone in the world's gonna have to use it, and this is how powerful it is, so why wouldn't you want to use it? So there's a big battle going on with the yen, of course, the Chinese equivalent. Forgive me, I can't remember the currency name of the Russian one, but they are doing similar things as well. It's just very convenient, isn't it? Especially this year, where we see all these announcements coming out, that all of a sudden all these partnerships, these integrations are coming out into fruition, and takeovers as well. And that point relating very heavily to this, guys, May 18th, today, Ripple rolls out CBDC platform for governments, financial institutions. Okay, so pushing further into the CBDC game, unveiling a new platform for creating blockchain-based digital currencies. This is allowing, guys, any country, any banking system to be able to create their own CBDC infrastructure, their own CBDC solution. Now, there's a lot of pilots going on around the world right now. We know, BIS has been working heavily on things like Project Dunbar, Icebreaker, Helvetia, Jura. We've covered them all on the channel, guys, even way before they come into public announcements. We know they're there. We know they're talked about. We know they exist. I've been to multiple government level events recently where this is constantly talked about. We'll talk about mBridge in a second, because it all relates. It's all happening at the same time, which is my point. But this is very crazy, guys. Ripple is rolling out a proprietary platform for central bank digital currencies, enabling central banks, governments, and financial institutions to create their own digital currencies. Like, honestly, I'm not going to say this is bullish as such. It is significant. The fact that a company like Ripple has already got its fingers in so many pies around the world, in so many institutions, so many banks, that they're now bringing out a system, or have got a system out there for any company, business, government, you name it, to be able to create a CBDC system utilizing their ledger, XRPL. This is what predominantly Ripple was about. It was arguably never supposed to be something that a retail investor could get involved with, which is arguably one of the conversations around the SEC lawsuit of how that was able to happen, amongst a load of other things, obviously. And Garling House, if I remember a few years back, even openly admitted that they never thought that this was supposed to be out in the open for people to be able to get hold of. So whether they'll buy it back from us, I've seen the rumours over the last 6 months or so. Who knows what price it would be worth, or whether people say it reminds me of the historic noting of I think it was 1920s or something, when the governments etc wanted the gold back, so they basically forced people to send it back. They got some monetary value from it, or they got potentially fined if they didn't, and then all of a sudden everyone became poor, they became rich. It just feels a bit like that, but in a digital way. It's really, I don't know if anyone else thinks that way, but just keeping an open mind on it for sure. But yeah, this here, according to Ripple, the new platform enables government institutions to oversee and customize every aspect of the CBDC's lifecycle, including its creation, distribution, redemption, and removal from circulation. This is where it gets very different from obviously decentralization, hence why it's called a central bank digital currency. And the weird conversations that have been occurring in some of the events that I've been, Digital Pound Foundation event was one of them, where some people from the media in the back of the room were asking questions about programmability and what does this mean for the people, and they just kept not answering those questions, kept avoiding them. I will do my review of that event this week, because I've been trying to find the best way to present it, because I don't want to get removed from the events or not go to these events anymore, because it is interesting to know, but also I understand the concerns of people and actually half relate to that for sure. So on top of this Metaco acquisition, which is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal what they're doing, with the integration or the ability to create infrastructure for CBDCs. On top of that, they're showcasing the ability of digital tokenization. How many times have I spoken to you guys about this on the channel? Tokenized assets, and particularly real estate, is fascinating to me. We've covered property many times. We know Hedera are doing similar things, and we know Ripple have been doing it before, because I did a video, and I'll leave it at the end of this one, of a pilot system that they were doing with a company. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but Ripple were doing this for a while. But this is the first time I've seen it at a very high institutional government level. So this is related to Hong Kong's monetary system, or Hong Kong Monetary Authority's HKMA inaugural E/HKD pilot program. This is part of CBDCs again as well. But look at this, showcasing real estate asset tokenization solutions as part of the Hong Kong, which mentioned HKMA pilot program. This is mental. So we're talking about multi-trillion dollars worth of assets in general for tokenized assets. Real estate, of course, has its own market, its own opportunity, and obviously Hong Kong is one of the most giant commercial outlets for real estate and commercial estate, and it's an absolutely prime position, a prime opportunity to showcase a trial pilot like this. There's very few countries around the world, or certainly states within a country, that can really utilize this and showcase its massive potential. You could argue maybe some elements like New York, maybe London, and obviously a few other European countries around the world where you could argue that they're close. But Hong Kong, if you've ever been, it is absolutely insanely big, and the amount of commercial outlet assets out there is phenomenal. So it's really interesting to see how this develops and moves forward with that. But we can see here, which mention a point around this. So the HKMA has adopted a 3-rail approach to prepare for the possible rollouts of the EHKD. As a leading provider offering real-world asset tokenization capabilities, Ripple, alongside its partners including Fubon Bank, one of the largest commercial banks in Taiwan, will demonstrate its use case under the pilot program, which will focus on real estate asset tokenization and equity release, leveraging the EHKD. So the pilot program will see a series of pilots conducted with various industry players to gain in-depth research into application implementation and design issues related to the EHKD project. I mean, that is a huge market to be going for, and there's a huge opportunity. It mentions under here about world asset tokenization as a whole, as a generalization. I'll just open that article up. We've covered so many different token areas that this can go down, and the digitalization of that, even physical assets being converted into digital, whether that's for fractional use or overall use or sharing, whatever it is. There's a huge fundamental application from blockchain for the verification, the processing, the validity, whatever you want to be incorporated in this as well. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. But the last point before we go into the chart, guys, wrapping this kind of conversation around CBDCs, what Ripple's doing, the convenience of the timing of all this as well. Of course, one of the big projects, while this loads, I don't know why it's so slow today, the mBridge project. This started, or was announced, towards the latter stage of last year. This is heavily involved around connecting economies, connecting technologies as well around the world using CBDC infrastructure and cross-border payments. I'll leave a link to this in the description below. This is the video webinar from yesterday, i.e. Wednesday 17th, delivered by the Digital Pound Foundation with a few participating partners in there that we know of course. But the mBridge project is massive, and this is heavily, again, conveniently timed with the likes of Ripple as well, announcing their conversations. Look at this: the BIS Innovation Hub, Hong Kong Centre, Monetary Authority, the Bank of Thailand. Those are the two countries which mentioned in this article relating to all of these things. Sorry, it was Taiwan, not Thailand, but Hong Kong in this particular aspect, and all these other big regions and states are already in progress with all of this, guys. It's going to be absolutely mad these next few years. And I've always said that I believe truly that come 2025, when the new RTGS system switches on, this will see the catalyst of the real massive conversation around CBDCs. It will be in the general public's eye. This, in my opinion, will be the catalyst for the huge bull cycle in that year, or certainly within 2024 and 2025. That's where I see it. And I'm almost guaranteeing in my mind that CBDCs will be the main subject topic, because once people understand CBDCs more, or it comes out into the general public, they'll be jumping in to find out who's powering this stuff, who's making this stuff, who's integrating this stuff, and they'll read all these different articles all the way years back and go, oh, I've just found this out, and then all of a sudden it kicks in, and then everyone jollies in like they did, in parts of 2020, certainly in 2021 through the NFT sphere and the metaverse, etc. Look how big that was. Let's see what happens with this one, because I guarantee at a financial level, this will wipe the floor with any bull cycle we've ever seen before. And you would expect that naturally, but I'm anticipating huge amounts of money coming in, because there will be a lot more trust from the institutional level now as well, as they see these developments occurring. And who's powering them? Who's creating them? We've got a big list already, certainly in my portfolio. Quant, Ripple's XRP, obviously Hedera, Algorand is on there. You could argue Casper in some elements. XLM, Stellar, of course, they're doing their own CBDC platforms. The list is huge of what I call the real core projects out there. And I think it's a really exciting time. But all of these pieces of information that are coming out in similar times is really, really fascinating. Not necessarily coincidental, but the arguments are there. The utility is coming. The utility is arguably here already anyway, but to see these actual massive trial situations occurring is really exciting as an investor, and obviously seeing the transition, the development of this technology moving forward. So that is pretty much wrapping up the info side, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm really interested to see what you think, particularly around this Metaco acquisition. Can't believe that this has happened. I think it's absolutely massive. But also with the CBDC developments, the pilot systems of Ripple, I honestly think the SEC situation is a complete distraction, complete theatre, whilst all this stuff goes on. And it's for us to all see right now. People are arguing, well, hang on a minute, you're in a court of law here. How are you supposed to carry on? Well, they are. And look what they've just done. You're in supposedly a lawsuit with a biggest jurisdiction of things like the SEC, but you're going to go and spend $250 million on a company, your first acquisition. Of course they're in a lawsuit. So guys, let's wrap that up. Let's go into the chart of Ripple, so we can go through some of the price action that we've seen over the last month or so of XRP, but more importantly where we are right now. So at the moment, current price point of 46 cents is being very stable, to be fair, atop that 40-cent mark. I've still got anticipation at some point, touch wood, from a selfish perspective, that we may come and retest these sort of 36, 37 cent marks. This is where I've got a buy order available, but obviously around these areas, certainly not at the moment in the last few days where we've had this upward trend. I'm not going to be buying in there. I think there's going to be a bit of hype the last few days, especially with the news that's come out, but still a lot of people obviously skeptical because of the lawsuit and everything like that. So we could anticipate that potentially we might break this support level here at 46.7 cents, and if we do, we could argue that the next point up here is at 49, and we might see a retest of some of these higher levels, depending on how much confidence is there. If there isn't enough confidence, we're going to start seeing a bit of an up and down trend for a bit, a sideways action if you like, for the next couple of weeks. So there's a couple of things to figure out here, but from my perspective, we do see a dip down. I've always had these buy orders here around sort of 44-45 cents. It's not far off to where it is now. I'm not going to be angry to miss out on 1 cent, to be honest, but for the grand scheme of things in the long term patterns, if we do go up and come back down, these are always areas of interest to me personally, so I will leave those in there as reference points for sure. But at the moment, as I said, the last 40 hours have obviously had the trigger points of the great information that's been coming out. And if we look at the RSIs, it's still very middle ground, it's very limbo level. So I think there's an opportunity here to just bide a bit of time over the next couple of days to see the reaction, the real proper reaction for this. Because for me, it's not a big buy point at the moment. If I was in there a few days ago, fine, but like right now, it's a bit too risky in my mind to be jumping in. So we'll have to see. Because actually, if you like deep dive into this a bit more, you can see the moves aren't hugely significant. We're talking about like 1 or 2 cents here. I mean, you could argue all the way back here from the 16th, 2 days ago. The operation of 5 cent increase is not huge from a monetary value perspective, but if you look at it on a price range chart, it's not too bad. 12%. It's very, I'd call like average, to be honest. So I'm not massively hugely excited at this moment in time. I don't think we're in the right market for humongous news to make any significant challenging difference to the price of any of the tokens at the moment. So we just got to bear that in mind. Bear in mind as well, like the different events around the world still, the interest rate hikes, you name it, it's all still going on. It's not going away. But you might see a transfer of money from other tokens and other asset groups into Ripple. I think a lot of people do that. They try and chase the money. But I think also a lot more people are getting more and more savvy about being more patient, being less emotional, and taking their time with it. So my kind of consensus of this, from my personal opinion, is I'm just going to hold tight for a few more days. If it rockets up, fine. I've got good amounts of XRP. I've been buying at good different DCA levels anyway, and fantastic to see people making profit, absolutely. But for me as an accumulator of XRP for the longer term, for the few years time and beyond, I still have these kind of like trigger points that I always wait for. So that's my opinion. That's what I've been doing for a long time. It's always been working so far. But yeah, just because loads of news comes out, don't get frustrated if price points aren't going mental. You just got to understand the way the world is right now, and arguably the lack of confidence, as I said, in the market is still there. So the positive side of it, from Ripple's perspective as a holder, is that a lot of the performance indicators on the right hand side here are in the green, and there's not many assets that can boast that, to be honest. So it's showing good strength in XRP in general, just perhaps not the moves that we were always trying to anticipate in our heads. There's a big following of XRP, very influential driven, if you like. Maybe a lot of influencer marketing goes behind this in some capacity to push that over the edge, and that's why I think a lot of frustration comes in, because people are anticipating it because they see all this news, people covering it, etc., and then going, oh well, it's only moved like 4 cents, that's not making me a millionaire overnight unless you've got a mega ton of them. So yeah, just keep your minds focused, guys. Remove the emotion, as I said. But yeah, just be wary of these moves over these next few days. Maybe more news comes out and more people get hearing about it, and it might start flying. Who knows? But as I said, monitor the situation, keep your DCA strategies in there, and just, yeah, let's just keep an eye on it. I'll review this over the next week or so, and keep an eye on people's reactions in the comments, keep your reaction on other YouTube channels and things like that, see what the consensus is. And I'll try and review XRP again in a week's time, see where we are. But hopefully that's been a bit of an interesting overview for you guys. As I said, I'm really more interested, to be honest, in what you guys think. The retaliation of the acquisition, the information around the CBDC side of things, it's all really exciting to see this development. And for me, I'm a long-term holder of XRP. I'm not going anywhere. I do think this is going to be a substantially priced token in the next 5-10 years, and I'm sure you would agree with me as well. Let us know what you think. I'm going to wrap the video up here now, guys. Thanks you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video update. Take care, and bye-bye.